in section 1.3, we looked at linear functions. So those are functions that the graph is a straight line and they have a constant rate of change. That slope is a number. We looked at the slope-intercept form of a line. In section 1.4, we're going to look at some other ways of representing a linear function, so some other formulas for that. But before we do that, we're going to start by just doing a little bit of review and practice in solving equations. So we're going to solve all 6 of these, and these first ones we're going to solve for x and then y. So just a quick refresher, I'm going to add 5 to both sides. So I want to isolate this x. So if I add 5 to both sides, what I get is 2x is equal to 18. And then I'll divide both sides by 2. And that gives me x is equal to 9. I'm going to let you solve this one and then and this one as well. But before you do this one, there's a couple different ways of tackling it. What I would recommend is probably just distributing this 5/3 to both of these terms in the parentheses. So you'd have 5/3 y plus 5/3 times 2. So that gives you 10/3 equals 1/2 minus y. And so then you can go ahead and solve for y. So take a second, pause the video, try and see how you do solving for x here and how you do solving for y there. Okay, so hopefully you gave that a try. Let's go through these. So if I subtract 2x from both sides here, okay, that'll put all my x's on the right side. And what I get is -5 is equal to 2x minus 9. And I'll add 9 to both sides. And so I get 4 is equal to 2x, which tells me x is equal to 2. Okay. You do not need to show these 2 steps here. If you feel confident in your algebra skills and you jump from this to this, and then from here to here, that's totally fine. You don't have to show that you subtract 2x on both sides. Generally, because that's the person grading that, which is me, can generally follow that pretty well. But if it's helpful to you to do that, go ahead and do that. All right, and then number 3, we'd already FOIL or distributed this out. So let's see what we have here. I'm going to add y to both sides so I can get rid of this y over here. So that gives me, so 8/3 y plus 10/3 is equal to 1/2. And I'm going to subtract that 10/3 over to the other side. So I have 8/3 y is equal to 1/2 minus 10/3. Okay, you can certainly put that into your calculator. If you have a graphing calculator, actually convert it back to a fraction for you. So we have 1 divided by 2 minus 10/3. Okay, so it gives me a decimal. To get it back to a fraction, I can push the math button, and it highlights this fraction. So you just hit enter and then push enter again. We get -17/6. Okay, which means y is going to be -17/6 divided by 8/3. So when you divide by a fraction, it means you're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So instead of writing this as 8/3, I'm going to write this as 3/8. So that reciprocal is just taking that and flipping that over. And then this is going to simplify to -17/16. All right, so that gives us number 3. That was a little bit more complicated, but we still got there. And then 4, 5, and 6, these ones have a lot of letters in them, but that's okay. We can still do this. So we're going to take this formula. This is for the distance around the edge of a circle. The circumference is equal to 2 pi r. We're going to solve for r. So that means I want to get rid of everything that's not r. So if I divide both sides by 2 pi, I get r is equal to c over 2 pi. All right, at number 5, I am solving for x. So I want to put all the x's on the same side. So I'm going to take this -ax, so I'm going to add ax to both sides. That gives me ab plus 2ax is equal to c. Remember, I'm solving for x. So here's where my x is. This doesn't have any x's, so I want to get rid of that ab. Now I have 2ax is equal to c minus ab. I have my x's on one side and my non-x's on the other side. Down to this last step here, I'm going to divide out the 2a. Just get an x there. So my x is going to be equal to c minus ab. All of that divided by 2a. And then we have one last one here. We are solving for y this time. I need to put all my pieces with y on the same side. So let me move that ay over. So I have by minus ay minus d equals c. I'm going to add that d over to the other side. So I have c plus d. Now let me see with this by minus this ay. And I want to factor a y out of that. So I get y times b minus a is equal to c plus d. And then I can divide this b minus a over. So that goes away. And I'm left with y is equal to c plus d over b minus a. Right, so hopefully that was a good refresher for you.